West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
This mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We are still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Are you ready? I hope so, because here we go. Yes, indeed. It is a big Thursday, October 8th, and this is the Bill Press Show, live on Free Speech TV, live on our worldwide video stream, Talker TV, youtube.com/Talker, TAWKR TV. Coming to you from our nation's capital, where there's a big vote today among Republicans in the House of Representatives. It's the Republican Conference. They will vote to choose the next speaker, Republican Speaker of the House of Representatives. Kevin McCarthy from California is bound to win that vote, but he may have trouble winning the speakership on the floor of the House when that big vote comes up on October 29, because yesterday the 40 members of the Freedom Caucus endorsed Daniel Webster from Florida instead. Civil war inside House Republicans. We love it. I'm sorry. Rare for a president to say that, but President Obama did say that yesterday. He called the head of Doctors Without Borders and said, "We are sorry." He is sorry that the United States military accidentally bombed that hospital in Kunduz, killing 22 people. The head of the Doctors Without Borders, Dr. Liu, said she received the president's apology, but they still are demanding an independent investigation. They don't trust the Pentagon investigation because they say it was a war crime. More bad news for President Obama. Yesterday, Hillary Clinton came out in opposition to the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, joining liberal Democrats, progressive Democrats, and Bernie Sanders in her opposition. And President Obama will be going out tomorrow to visit the families of the victims in Roseburg, Oregon. We'll bring you up to date on all of the above, plus a lot more, and take your calls at 866-55-PRESS on this Thursday edition of The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday.
It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hillary Clinton says no to TPP, and Bernie Sanders says, welcome aboard. Hello, everybody. Here we go on a Thursday, October 8th. Good to see you today. Come on board the Bill Press bandwagon here as we move out across the country, bouncing out coast to coast on your local progressive talk radio station. And if you don't have one near you, you can follow us on the radio, which you probably are, on one of the great radio apps, TuneIn or iHeartRadio. They're both free. Download them, use them. Follow us on the radio wherever you go. And we're bouncing out to you on television, Free Speech TV, nationwide, worldwide, on our video stream, Talker TV. How about it? Good to see you today. It's a busy day here. This may be the day that Kevin McCarthy gets his first vote of confidence out of the Republican conference, which will meet today to select who they think should be, whom they will recommend to the floor as the next Speaker of the House of Representatives. Kevin McCarthy will win that vote, but he may be in trouble when he gets to the House floor because the Freedom Caucus yesterday, all 40 of them, voted unanimously to endorse Daniel Webster. No, not the old Daniel Webster. This new kind of wahoo from Florida.
Okay.
And if all 40 of them hold tight for Daniel Webster on the floor October 29, Kevin McCarthy will not win that big vote. We'll play out to see how that plays out and everything else here today. You tell us what you think about it all at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. We're here ready to catch your comments. Peter Ugburn and Jamie Benson.
Hey, hey.
Hey, good morning.
Yes.
Happy Thursday.
Ray Rogers here to take your calls. Catch your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And booming out to you on Free Speech and on Talker TV, thanks to Monty Kensler, our videographer for this week, while Cyprian extends his... He said he was going to be back yesterday, damn it. You know, I'm a little annoyed today that he hasn't come back from Madrid. All right, so he's having a good time, but, you know, he can't stretch it out forever, Cyprian, right?
Yeah.
If you're watching. So, how about it? You know, we talked yesterday about Ben Carson. I mean, if you were ever involved, God forbid, in a situation where a gunman walks into a theater, a restaurant, a park, school, right? Mm-hmm. Classroom where you happen to be, the one you want by your side is Ben Carson.
Oh, yeah.
Because he said what he would do is he would just rally everybody. Let's go. We're going to charge.
Come on, everyone.
The shooter. Yeah. And we talked about he may not be the best one to lead the charge. Trevor Noah picked up on that last night.
Ben Carson really thinks that he could rally people against a mass shooter. I think he's overestimating how inspiring his presence might be. You're gonna shoot me? Hey guys, listen up. I need you all to rally behind my charismatic presence and charge with me in a certain death. Who's with...
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But the idea alone
Wake up, Ben.
The idea alone is
Yeah,
insane. It's crazy.
Totally insane. Right.
You need like 10 megaphones to really make any effect
Right.
there.
Like, I can't think of many people I would follow into battle or into, as Trevor Noah said, certain death. Ben Carson ain't one of them.
The guy on the plane, right, on 9/11 coming into Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Forget the name of that, where that plane went down.
Shanksville,
right. Where he said, let's roll.
Let's roll.
Let's roll. That's the kind of guy you want,
Yeah, right.
That ain't Ben Carson.
No.
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 No, not at all.
Let's roll.
All right. Hey, it's a big Thursday with Susan Page from USA Today, Joe Cirincione from the Ploughshares Fund, of course, Margaret Talev from Bloomberg, and Keith Mestrich, who is president and CEO of Amalgamated Bank. First time you've seen a banker on the Bill Press Show. How about that? But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news at the box office. The Martian continues to steamroll. They're picking up a lot of money. It's still the number one movie in the land. But here's the thing. BuzzFeed has compiled a pretty sad little rundown of people who think that The Martian is based on a true story. Now, The Martian, I'm not giving anything away here. It's based on the book, and the book is about a group that goes to Mars, and one of them gets left behind, one of the astronauts, and he finds a way to live on Mars for an extended period of time until they figure out a rescue mission. We've never been to Mars.
It's not a true story.
I hate to burst your bubble. I mean, I will say the movie is shot not. It's not much different than like the movie Apollo 13, which is based on a true story, and they use NASA and all of that stuff. So it is it's a good, well done movie. But no, we have not been to Mars. We did not leave an astronaut on Mars.
But Gravity is a true story.
Careful now. Domino's Pizza has expanded. They are now selling their very authentic pizza in Italy. It's the first shop that they've put in Italy. The look on your face.
Any Italian who would buy no Italian's going to buy Domino's Pizza. No self-respecting Italian.
Yeah. I'm sorry to tell you, but there are 4 more in development. By the way, no other major American pizza chain has successfully entered the Italian market, with good reason, I would imagine. But Domino's thinks that they can crack that code, and they have just opened in Italy. Good luck.
That's just terrible.
I guess it feels like sacrilege, but
I want a reality show just to see the reactions of Italians.
Yeah.
That's like seeing a McDonald's in Paris. You know, you see it and you just want to weep.
Yeah. And Bill, outside of the Library of Congress, not far from here at all, you know that little fountain out there, the ornate fountain, very cool.
Right in front of the library.
Right in front of the library.
No, it's a great fountain.
I love it. I love that fountain. It's very, very cool. Well,
I was at the White House yesterday when this happened.
Do
not blame me.
Okay, I was going to say, because I know it's not far from here.
I know.
Okay, yesterday.
And I do like the skinny dip.
A man was arrested because he decided to take a bath inside that beautiful fountain just outside of the Library of Congress. It was broad daylight. He stripped down completely nude and got in to take a little bath. The U.S. Capitol Police were called to the Neptune Fountain when people called to report a naked man. It was around 9:20 in the morning.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, all right.
It hadn't warmed up at that point.
I was going to say,
still a little chilly.
Chilly willy woo out there.
No, well, I was at the White House briefing when that news broke. At least the woman alongside me got that on her phone, and she showed me the headline, and I told her, I want you to be my witness. I was sitting here in the briefing room.
I just want to say, the man was arrested and charged with indecent exposure, and they have not released his name.
Oh, okay.
So I just wanted to, we're marking you.
You're not clear yet.
Could
he have been this guy?
Could have been. There he is.
Might have been
McBainer.
John Boehner. You know, because he doesn't have a job anymore.
That's true.
Pretty soon.
Right.
Now, tell me about this T-shirt.
It's from our friends at, of all places, the Tea Party Patriots. And they wanted to make sure that you got one of those shirts. It's a Kevin McCarthy shirt to kind of make the point that Kevin McCarthy's not much different than John Boehner.
He's just another Boehner.
Meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
It even has a red wine, glass of red wine.
Very authentic.
And a cigarette.
Very authentic.
That is John Boehner. Right. Indeed. How about it? Well, the politician is getting a lot more attention today after a release yesterday of an unusual ad. Is Vice President Joe Biden. Of course, a lot of speculation about whether or not he's going to jump in. Boy, we were talking about that for so long. As you know, I have encouraged him to do so, just like I encouraged Bernie Sanders to run and encouraged Hillary Clinton to run. I think the more the merrier. And give us a real choice, and let's just see which one we think can take the country in the direction we want to go, can best take the country in the direction that we want to go in. And all three of them have certainly a lot to offer. Well, there has been this, and of course, the speculation has been feverish the last couple of days about Joe Biden because the first Democratic debate is Tuesday, and CNN had said he could even decide if he gives them a call Tuesday morning and said, I have decided I'm going to go, they'll put up a podium for him. They'll let him in the debate. It's pretty clear right now, most people say, that he's not going to be will choose not to be in the debate on Tuesday. He'll let this first debate go, but he still might run. Well, that speculation intensified yesterday with the release of an ad, not by the vice president, not by his campaign, because he doesn't have one, but by a group that's been around for a while called Draft Joe Biden. Now, this is the ad with pictures of Joe Biden and still pictures of Joe Biden and his family throughout the years. And this is Biden himself. The audio is Biden himself giving a commencement address at Yale last spring. So it's the vice president's voice with a pretty powerful message and a pretty powerful story. It's a minute long. Let's listen. And then you tell me, here's what I want to, is this ad over the top? Does it go too far? Are they trying to exploit people's sympathy, if you will, to try to get Joe Biden to run?
Things can change in a heartbeat. I know. 6 weeks after my election, my whole world was altered forever. I got a phone call. My wife and 3 children were Christmas shopping. Tractor trailer broadsided it and killed my wife and killed my daughter. And they weren't sure that my sons would live. The incredible bond I have with my children is a gift I'm not sure I would have had I not been through what I went through. But by focusing on my sons, I found my redemption. Many people have gone through things like that. My dad's definition of success is when you look at your son and daughter and realize they turned out better than you, and they did. You're on the cusp of some of the most astonishing breakthroughs in the history of mankind. Scientific, technological, socially. But it'll be up to you in this changing world to translate those unprecedented capabilities into a greater measure of happiness and meaning, not just for yourself, for the world around you.
There he is, Vice President Joe Biden.
Holy cow.
I'm telling you, it gives you chills.
That's
It gives me
intense.
chills. I've heard it a couple times yesterday, but hearing it again. Very powerful. And you know what? He's not making it up. I mean, that's exactly what happened. He's not exaggerating. The name of the ad, by the way, is Redemption. And you hear him talk about redemption. That's how he got his redemption, out of the fire of that personal tragedy. And I thought it very powerful impact. And it just proves this is a guy, he's for real. This is who he is. And he grew out of that and achieved great things. 36 years as a United States Senator, now 7 years as Vice President of the United States, maybe the next President of the United States, could be. And he was telling these students, whatever happens to you, whatever hand you're dealt with, right, grow out of it, turn it into something great, not just for yourself, he says, but for those around you, your family and your loved ones, and a greater society. Do you think but there were those who criticized yesterday and said, this is terrible. They're exploiting personal tragedy for political purposes, blah, blah, blah. You know it. Over the top or not? What do you think of the Biden ad? 866-55-PRESS. Again, not the Biden campaign, but the draft Joe Biden campaign. Is it effective? Does it persuade you, or does it just go too far? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it here. Thursday, Joe Biden on the Bill Press Show.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, Free Speech TV world, it's Mama and the Mooks here at the Stephanie Miller Show.
Hello. Good morning.
You know, Seinfeld was about nothing. I think the Stephanie Miller Show is about everything.
A little bit
isn't it?
everything.
Yeah, a
It's
little bit.
kind of everything like thrown into a blender and we hit frappe.
Right.
With wine poured in.
Right. Senators, fart jokes, politics, pop culture, entertainment.
Drinking.
Drinking, random stray thoughts. It's what all the hip kids are talking about.
Yep.
We have the smartest, funniest people in the country on this show, do we not?
We absolutely do.
Right?
And our sexy liberal army of callers call in every day to tell us all about it.
There you go. And some right-wingers that Travis particularly enjoys talking to.
They're my favorites.
Okay. You can watch us every weekday from 9 to noon Eastern or 6 to 9 Pacific, which is really early. But we still, we try to, we're still pulling in people like Rob Reiner, Lily Tomlin, Frangela, you name it. You can only get it here at the Stephanie Miller Show. Mama, Mooks, fancy celebrities.
And everything.
And fart jokes.
Free Speech TV.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TalkerTV. That's TAWKR TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
25 minutes after the hour. Yes, indeed. Hillary Clinton socking it to Obama yesterday by coming out against the TPP and making progressive and liberal Democrats happy. We'll talk about that in the next segment. But right now, more and more attention and more maybe pressure on Joe Biden to make his decision. And the group trying to draft him to draft Joe Biden, came out with this ad yesterday, which has sparked up a lot of controversy. You heard the ad. What do you think about it? 866-55-PRESS. Even David Axelrod, President Obama's campaign advisor from 2007, 2008, came out yesterday and said he just thought it was in bad taste to talk about the personal tragedies in Joe's life. I totally disagree. I mean, that's who he is. It's so much about how could that not mark a man, right? I mean, and that happened. He was just elected to the Senate. He was, I don't know, barely old. He wasn't even old enough when he was elected to be a senator. By the time he was sworn in, he was old enough. And his wife and his daughter killed. Her 2 sons are in intensive care in the hospital. He was ready to, he talked about suicide at the time. He was ready to quit, even though he had just been elected to the U.S. Senate. And he came down here, and the Senate leader at the time, forget his name, convinced Joe that you can still be with your kids and still be in the Senate, but you were elected and we need you. And so he was sworn in his son's hospital room in Wilmington, Delaware. And from that day on, until he was elected vice president, every single day he was in the United States Senate, he took the train home from Washington to Wilmington so he could be with his kids. Now tell me that doesn't tell you something about who this man is.
Right, exactly. That's who he is. That's how he does his job, right? This is important here in D.C., but he knows what's really important.
Yeah, and that's a very powerful message. And what he was saying is, and telling these students, I think, is you can overcome anything.
Yeah.
Look what I went through. You know? And you got to build on whatever hand is dealt you. He has done that, and I think, and his words, this is not somebody else writing this script and reading it to tell us about Joe. This is Joe Biden in his own words telling us what happened to him, what his life experience was, and that's the message that he delivered to those students up there at Yale in the spring, which again I think is very, very, very powerful. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Nobody brings more to the table than Joe Biden does. He may not run. I hope he does. But in terms of experience in the Senate, experience as we just heard from that ad, as a human being, his vice presidency, one of the most effective, influential ever in the history of this country. Nobody brings more to the table in terms of domestic policy, progressive politics, world knowledge, international affairs, foreign policy, relationships with foreign leaders. Nobody brings more to the table than Joe Biden. And so all I got to say is, hey, Joe, come on, make up your mind. Go for it.
This is The Bill Press Show.
I am your toilet, so how do you do? I take away your wee and the odd number 2. For a quiet moment, I'll always be there, bringing you troubles. You don't even have to care. Oh, think about the things you put me through. Things you put me through that I've been through you. Stuff from your body I'll happily take. Liquid or solid, whatever you make. When you think of all the things that I do, it's time to say thanks to your Lou. If I wasn't there So next time you have to do a poo or a wee, thank the sanitary saints that you have me. When you think of all the things that I do, it's time to say thanks to your loo. La 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 la. It's time to say thank you to your loo.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 33 minutes after the hour. It's a big Thursday, October 8th. This is the Bill Press Show. Coming to you live from Washington, D.C., here on your local progressive talk radio station. And so glad to be there with you on the radio in the morning. Don't forget, boy, you ought to appreciate it if you got a local progressive talk radio station near you in your community. Give them your full support. Not only the station, but the sponsors that you hear sponsoring the programs on your local progressive talk radio station. Very, very important. Also here with you, of course, on Free Speech TV. And we're brought to you today by the American Federation of Government Employees. We wouldn't be here without their good work keeping the federal agencies going day after day after day. They are proud to work for America every day under President J. David Cox, you bet. And we salute them, thank them for their support. Find out more at their website, afge.org. Before we move on, we've been talking about the powerful ad released yesterday by the draft Joe Biden team, Joe Biden telling his own story to a group, to graduating seniors from Yale University in the spring, and this draft Joe Biden group taking those words, turning them into a very powerful spot for the purpose of letting people know what Joe's story is in his own words, and building support for him to actually run in the Democratic primary in 2016. Peter, your comments?
We are on Twitter at BP Show, Show, where you can chime in on any comment at any time. Surfing Bird disagrees with you, Bill. Surfing Bird disagrees. Okay. Says, no Biden, just Hillary. Hillary is our only viable candidate. What is wrong with you? Do you have no sense? Thank you for the comment. at BP Show on
I'd love to have Hillary as a nominee, and love to have Hillary as our next president. What's this guy's name?
Surfing Bird.
Surfing Bird. Don't you realize Hillary is a lot stronger candidate? It's been proven true. We found that out in 2008. She's a lot stronger when she's got competition. God, wake up. Yes?
That's it. That's all we got.
All right. Okay. I'm sorry. I was ready for another one.
I mean, what else do you want?
I got my fire up, man.
I'm too scared to read another one
I'm like
now.
Ben Carson. Charge!
Charge.
Take it out. All right.
Charge.
Yes. In fact, let's talk about Hillary, because Hillary sent the president a little shot across his bow yesterday, but I thought did the right thing. She has. Let's back up a little bit. The first time that I talked to Senator Bernie Sanders, probably last spring. Spring of the year before this one, right? 2014. Or summer, about maybe running for. He told me he was thinking about running for president, and of course I asked why, and he said one of the things that he was concerned that if it was only Hillary, that there are a lot of issues that she might not talk about, a lot of progressive issues that may not be front and center that he thought should be the key issues in this campaign. And he talked about, of course, income inequality. He talked about Keystone Pipeline. He talked about TPP and about wages and minimum wage and all those issues. And he wanted to be sure those issues were front and center. And by his being out there, he thought it would bring Hillary a little to the left and get her to take stands on some of these issues. Well, I think Senator Sanders ought to put a big sign outside of his campaign headquarters that says, "Mission accomplished." Because we have seen, and to her credit, I don't care if it took her a little while to get there, to her credit, Hillary Clinton has come out and she said she'd make some major changes in Obamacare to make it more consumer friendly. She has come out in opposition to the Keystone Pipeline. She, even though as Secretary of State, she didn't take a stand when it was under review. She has talked about, from the beginning, income inequality. When she launched her campaign on June 13 up in Roosevelt Island, she was right out there saying that was going to define her campaign. And then yesterday, in one of the biggest moves, she came out with Judy Woodruff on the PBS NewsHour and said, as far as TPP goes, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, what she knows about it, hasn't seen the full deal, but what she knows about it, she could not support it.
What I know about it as of today, I am not in favor of what I have learned about it.
And one of the key issues, which we heard so much about when the House was debating the Trans-Pacific Authority, or the fast track, the so-called TPA, was the issue of currency manipulation, which other countries use to lower the price of their goods and their money and make it more difficult for American manufacturers to sell their products overseas. So the so-called currency manipulation, there's nothing in the draft that we saw of the TPP about that. That's a big problem for Hillary.
I'm worried. I'm worried about currency manipulation not being part of the agreement. We've lost American jobs to the manipulations that countries, particularly in Asia, have engaged in.
And she said, when this whole issue came up, that she set herself a test, which was, will this help American workers? Will this help create jobs in this country?
We had to have a trade agreement that would create good American jobs, raise wages, and advance our national security. And I still believe that's the high bar we have to meet.
And she went on to say, of course, that this deal, again, from what we know about it, because it has not yet been released publicly, but we know enough, she knows enough to say it did not meet that test that she said. It's a high bar, but it did not meet that test. And these are a lot of the arguments, of course, that we heard from the leading Democrats in the Senate Sherrod Brown, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and others. In the House, of course, led by Rosa DeLauro, particularly, who was in here several times. Dan Kildee, our good friend. Flat out. Nancy Pelosi, start with the leader. Flat out, the leadership of the Democratic Party, progressive wing of the Democratic Party in the House of Representatives, solidly against giving the president fast-track authority. In fact, I think there are only 24, 28 Democrats in the end who did vote for it with the Republicans, and that gave the president enough. He won his fast-track authority. He won the so-called TPA only because he had the support of John Boehner, Mitch McConnell, and the vast majority of Republicans in the House and Senate. It was Republicans and President Obama versus Democrats in the House and in the Senate that got that through. But the big question, of course, is what happens now? The deal, just 2 days ago, they announced they had made the deal, and that the TPP, the United States and 11 nations, that will now be released publicly, and then we're not sure exactly when, but once it's released publicly, the Congress has 60 days. It's got to be out there 60 days. After 60 days, Congress must vote thumbs up or thumbs down on the TPP. That's the big battle now, and Hillary's opposition certainly helps those who would like to kill the TPP.
Sure. Yeah.
866-55-PRESS, the toll-free number. Is Hillary doing the right thing? Is she right on this? I would say absolutely. Again, we haven't seen the entire deal, but a lot of the questions raised about the TPA, the Fast Track Authority, were based on what had been leaked about the draft Trans-Pacific Partnership deal. And unless that's radically changed, there's a lot of stuff in here which is going to, it's going to be, what they call it? NAFTA on steroids.
Yeah.
It's just going to be more loss of American jobs and lower wages, more stagnant wages. Again, just like NAFTA. By the way, I got to tell you, so Bernie Sanders, who has been against TPP, he and Elizabeth Warren, as I mentioned, Sherrod Brown, leading the opposition from day one because he just sees this as another bad trade deal for American workers. I also might mention every single labor union in the country. Every single union. First time they've ever been united on one issue. Public unions, private unions, every single one opposed the TPP. What was Bernie's reaction to Hillary's opposition?
I'm glad that she reached that conclusion. This is a conclusion that I reached from day one.
Yep. So, welcome on board.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. But, whether she's late to the feast or not, she's at the feast. She's on the right side. Good for Hillary. And I think it'll make a big difference in the Congress. Susan Page will have her opinion about that, too, on the news of the day. She is standing by. Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today. We'll be right back.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
How I've been affected by gun violence over the years is through deaths of friends and family members and associates.
When I was 5 years old, I was held at gunpoint in a home invasion.
I've gone to the juvenile detention centers and I've met dozens of young kids, babies really, who have been affected by gun violence.
Directly, I've lost a few friends, but I think why this touches my heart is having children of my own.
I've been at parties where, I had just left the party and, maybe 10, 15 minutes later, I heard that, somebody got shot and didn't make it.
There are a lot of people benefiting off of our pain,
and it's time we do something.
I'm here to unload my investment because I think that it's important that we start kind of seeing where our money is going.
It's time to go to your financial advisor and demand that there are no gun investments in your 401k.
Even if you don't have investments, you can still help spread the word.
This is something everyone can do.
So if you push your people that have 401ks, it might be your grandma, it might be your cousin, this effort can make a big impact.
I'm unloading for my loved ones that I lost.
I'm unloading for my 18-year-old self.
I'm unloading my 401k for the future of my children.
I'm unloading.
I'm unloading
for my family and their future.
I'm unloading so that my daughter can grow up in a safe, loving world.
Unload and join the movement.
Use hashtag I'm unloading to pledge your support for gun-free investing.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
He's not running for president, but he will shake hands and kiss babies. It's the Bill Press Show, your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election.
All right, 13 minutes before the top of the hour. How about it? A lot of news this week about Ben Carson's comments in reaction to the mass shooting out in Roseburg, Oregon, saying if he had been there, he would have told those students, let's charge that killer. And maybe there wouldn't have been so many victims. I'm telling you, you want to know if Ben Carson's backing down or not on his comments? Just ask Susan Page. She interviewed him this week for Capital Download on WUSA 9 here in Washington, D.C. Hello, Susan. Good get.
Hey,
yeah.
Hey, thanks. And, Ben Carson has very strong views on guns, and he says that his views have changed. That he once supported the idea, for instance, of banning those military-style assault weapons, that he no longer believes in that because he thinks people need to be armed against the possibility of government tyranny.
Oh, really? He's gone there all the way?
And
yeah.
Yes, and one of the questions I said to him, I said, well, I think most Americans are more afraid of fellow citizens with assault-style weapons than they are about this prospect of the government coming to take away their guns. He said, you have to be protected against both. And he also said that if he had a child in kindergarten, he would be more comfortable if someone on that campus was armed. And I said, like a police officer. And I said, well, what about the teacher? And he said, yes. I would, if the teacher understood how to use a gun and had access to it, I would feel more comfortable if they had a gun than if they didn't.
I also heard him say on that score that, of course, the gun would not be on the teacher's desk, right? It would have to be hidden away somewhere, right?
Well, we didn't discuss where the gun would be.
Yeah.
But he said he would want the teacher to have access to the gun and also have training in using a gun. But anyway, very definite. One thing you can say about Ben Carson is that he is willing to express his views, and on this, he was pretty clear.
Do you? I saw yesterday morning on CBS. They asked him, and I forget his name now. The name of the young man who did charge the killer in Roseburg, and he had no idea who he was or no idea that it had happened. Did you get into that with him at all?
We did not. The idea of whether you should charge a shooter wasn't something that we discussed. But I read about that guy who's a veteran.
Yes.
And who, by the way, was armed.
Was armed, right.
Yes, because, while some people said that this was a gun-free zone, it's a gun-free zone by school policy, but the state policy in Oregon allows anyone with a concealed carry permit to carry a gun, including onto that college campus. And that guy had one, although I don't believe he used it. I believe he just brushed them.
Did you find, does Ben Carson really believe he's going to be the next president of the United States? Or the Republican, let's just say the Republican nominee?
One step at a time?
Yeah, right.
For a guy who has never run for office before, he has a very calm and confident manner. I mean, his views are as definite as Donald Trump, but his manner is the exact opposite in that he's so soft-spoken that, in a way, you have to listen hard to realize the hard edge on the policies that he's espousing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If I interviewed him, I'm afraid he'd put me to sleep. Yeah, I mean, he's so low key.
He's very low key. Maybe that's a good trait for a surgeon, which of course was original.
Well, I would hope. That's right. I would hope that a surgeon would be not excitable, right?
I'll tell you one other thing. Yes. Yeah. I'll tell you one other thing he said. I said, you don't have any political experience, and yet you think you can be president. And he said, that's right. We shouldn't have professional politicians. I said, but if you were going to have brain surgery, wouldn't you want somebody doing it who had done it before?
Good question. Yeah.
And he said, there's no comparison. It's much harder to do brain surgery than to be president.
Okay.
All right. There we go. Yeah. Speaking of president, how often, Susan Page, have you heard presidents say, "I'm sorry," issue an apology?
Well,
not that often, huh?
Not that often. Although the fact is, he's been criticized by some on the right for being willing to acknowledge mistakes in the past. That's kind of why I paused. It's certainly a rare thing, but it is something President Obama's been, I think, more willing to do than some of his predecessors.
But the apology to Doctors Without Borders came as a big surprise to us in the briefing room yesterday, because just the day before, Josh Earnest was saying, "No, why should we apologize? Why we have to?" It wasn't that way. He just said, "We're not going to apologize until the investigation is over and we know what happened."
Right.
What changed their mind, do you think?
Well, I think whatever happened, we're very sorry, right? I mean, even if there's some explanation that makes it not the result of I mean, obviously a terrible thing happened, and we had a part to play in it.
Yeah, and I think the White House realized that they just couldn't hold that position, right, of not saying that they were sorry until waiting for the investigation. And the president got bad news on another front, Susan, yesterday with Hillary Clinton and the TPP. Were you surprised?
This is, I guess I am surprised, because she had been a very clear advocate for it when she was Secretary of State. Even in her book, where she called it the gold standard of deals, she said there that it wouldn't be a perfect deal because you have to make compromise. She acknowledged it'd be an imperfect deal. And yet now this is a political season, and I am surprised, and I think this is very bad news for President Obama in terms of getting approval of this deal, don't you?
Yes, I do. And I think it shows that Bernie Sanders has had an influence on this race.
Yeah. Definitely so. Yeah.
Yeah. I said earlier, I think he could almost put a sign on his campaign headquarters, "Mission accomplished," right?
Well, and it may put Joe Biden in a little bit of a tough position, because if he runs, and I continue not to know whether he's going to run or not, but if he does, I assume he'll support the deal. How could he not? He's the vice president.
Right.
And he'd be the only Democratic candidate.
He'd be the only Democratic candidate supporting the deal. No, he cannot break with Obama on this deal, I don't think at all. Susan, such great fun to have you on board again this morning. I'll see you tomorrow at the big book party.
Okay, great.
All right. We won't invite the entire world, Susan, but you and I know what we're talking about.
Don't hand out the address. Okay?
No, exactly. Okay. Susan Page, USA Today, Washington Bureau Chief.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Came here to Foster City, where we're going to watch UC Berkeley, a University of California SWAT team, do a hostage rescue scenario.
All personnel aware of the proper protection of living. This includes all personnel identified as staff, role players, CIDs, and support staff. Face, eyes, throat, and chronic infection is mandatory and should be worn at all times by personnel directly involved in or near the scenario.
water in there now? Yeah, go ahead. So this is like some kind of chemical agent?
Yeah.
Copy, we're ready. I'm gonna get shot. I already know it, dude.
Fiends yelling at me.
Gentlemen, we have a chemical. We need to pull our person out. Get these guys out of here. Pull them out. Pull them out. Pull them out. Put your hands on your face. Put your hands on your face. Keep him covered.
Your head up. He's got a shotgun back there.
That's all right. Keep his hands up where we can.
Hands on your face.
Hands on your face.
On your face.
On your face.
Someone cover me. I got a holster up, bro.
Okay, pull him around the corner. Pick him up. Get him out of the building. Quickly. We've got this. Just get that guy out of there. You, come towards us. Keep your hands on your face. Turn around. Face away from us. Back towards us. Quickly. Back up towards me. Quickly, quickly, quickly. Pull him out of the room.
We're exfilling, Billy.
Yes, we are exfilling.
It was actually around 92, 94. There was an attack on the chancellor at his residence, which is on campus.
Okay.
And we realized at the time that we didn't have any resources to deal with that kind of threat when it took place.
Okay.
So, and I think about 15 years before, they had some kind of semblance of a SWAT team. So they regenerated the idea of
I see.
activating a SWAT team.
And then since then, you guys have kind of branched out to doing what kind of stuff?
Well, since then, we train for everything. We train for every eventuality, barricaded subjects. Like I said, most of what we do is high-risk warrants.
Okay. And it's something like it could be like a mugging kind of thing, just like on the street.
Depends.
Or
I mean,
like
a mugging, but if it's armed, particularly.
Right, an armed mugging.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then obviously we're looking for training for anything else. That we might be faced with. And that's what's great about Urban Shield is we couldn't duplicate this on our own.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, we've been searching for a long time for a progressive banker. I know it sounds like a contradiction in terms, but we found one. The head of Amalgamated Bank is going to be here in the studio with us in the next hour. We'll also be talking with Washington Post congressional reporter Kelsey Snell about the big vote that comes up today for in the Republican conference in the House of Representatives to see who might be the next Speaker of the House. Looks like Kevin McCarthy is going to win that one hands down, but not so easy maybe on the floor of the House later on. Anyhow, back with hour number 2 coming up. Stay around.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I'm a Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people had lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we've took 4 pay cuts and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got. A lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. I'm not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself, blood pressure, or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I haven't opened the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for. I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed, or whatever. We're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate their children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Program.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hillary Clinton comes out against the TPP. Big body blow to President Obama. Big boost to House Democrats who would like to kill it. Hello, everybody. That's the breaking news here on a Thursday, October 8th. Good to see you today. Thank you so much for joining us here, the Bill Press Show. Here with you on your local progressive talk radio station, coast to coast in this great land of ours. And we're also here with you on Free Speech TV. And thank you for being with us. We look forward to hearing from you. You know, it's our job to bring you up to date on what's going on, but your job, not just to sit back, although that's okay. You can just sit back and enjoy it all, but we also love it when you chime in and tell us what you think about the issues of the day. And several ways of doing so. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. That's the old-fashioned way, maybe. Get your voice on the air. But also through the social media, send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show, on Facebook or on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Peter Rockburn and Jamie Benson leading up Team Press here.
Hey, Bill. Here we are.
Yeah, what do you say?
Thursday.
Already made it through Thursday. Ray Rogers is there to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS on the issues of the day, and Monty Kensler here as our videographer with Cyprian still off across the pond in Madrid. It is, I don't know whether you know, I mentioned Hillary Clinton. She's got a big birthday coming up, Jamie, and she has a big celebration planned.
Oh, yeah?
For New York. Jimmy Fallon pointed out that there's something maybe a little backward the way she's approaching her birthday.
Hillary Clinton's 68th birthday is coming up this month, and to celebrate, Hillary is planning to hold a big fundraiser here in New York City. You got to give it to Hillary. She's the only grandmother who hears about a birthday and expects the checks to come to her. And you go, that's not the way it works. Grandma, send me the $5.
Yeah.
That's right. No. Right? Usually, Grandma, she does it the other way around.
Right. She knows what she's doing.
Oh, yeah, she does. Right. You couldn't let a big... And you're running for president. You got a birthday. You got to take advantage of it. Yeah.
You got to get paid.
No doubt about it. We've got a lot coming up here. We'll start off the hour with Kelsey Snell from the Washington Post. Keith Mestrich is president of Amalgamated Bank. Yes, a progressive bank and a progressive banker here on the Bill Press Show. In the next hour, Joe Cirincione from the Ploughshares Fund and Margaret Talev from Bloomberg News. Big lineup for a Thursday. But first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Okay, so 2 weeks ago in China, they opened up the Yuntaishan Glass Skywalk. It is a walk with a glass floor that you can walk out onto, and it goes 3,540 feet high. It's 853 feet long, and a lot of tourists have gone to walk on this because you can walk on it and look down, and it's straight down. Good idea, right? Not exactly.
Glass breaks.
It's been open for 2 weeks, and yesterday, sections of the floor panels cracked and shattered underneath their feet because, it's made of glass. So they have closed it down for repairs. They say it's going to open back up. I should point out that nothing actually broke through the glass, but the glass panels shattered. Looks like shattered, broken.
No, thank you.
Spiderweb glass.
No.
I will take a hard pass on taking a trip to that. Absolutely. The White House wants their employees, the people working at the White House, to stand while they work. The White House wants to spend $700,000 on
deliver.
standing desks. Now, President Obama has been known to conduct meetings standing up. He doesn't like sitting down. And, they say that, if you're going to be in your workplace environment, doctors encourage you to stand for 2 hours out of the day because it's just much better for your back and for your body. So the executive office of the president, I should say, estimates that they will spend $700,000 for, quote, height-adjustable standing desktops and accessories.
Right, okay, good.
It's kind of hard to stand and do the show.
Yeah, all right.
There you go.
I have to stand and do the show?
There you go. You can do it. It's kind of hard to get that mic up there. But.
Well, we should say that in this office, trendsetter here, right? My boyfriend Woody, he's had a stand-up desk for, 2 years?
Yeah, a couple years now.
Yeah. And now going all the way to the White House.
Great way to work. And wild card baseball last night, Bill. It was the Chicago Cubs and the Pittsburgh Pirates. And congratulations to all of our friends at WCPT in Chicago.
Go Cubbies.
A big win by the Cubbies last night. 4-0. Jake Arrieta, the Cubs ace on the mound. He is the pitcher, just pitching the lights out these days.
Yeah.
A little bit of a scandal during the game because he hit a couple of Pirates batters on accident, it appears. But in the 7th inning, Pirates pitcher nailed Arrieta as he was up at bat, which meant the benches cleared. Sean Rodriguez from the Pirates was ejected from the game, but it didn't matter for the Cubs. They went on to win again 4-0.
So they win the wild card slot. They're up against St. Louis, right?
That's how it goes. Yeah.
All right. Good. Thank you, Peter. Yes, indeed, big day on the Hill, particularly on the House side, and the Republican conference, which meets today. Kelsey Snell covers Congress for the Washington Post, joins us on our news line. Hey, Kelsey, does Kevin McCarthy have the votes today?
Hi there. Well, he says he does have the votes. As a former House whip, he should be pretty good at counting votes, and he says that he has plenty of votes to secure an easy passage later today. And
this is the first test, right? For speakership, right? But not the deciding test.
Well, what will happen is there's going to be a series of votes that have to come up, and the speaker vote today is actually just the start of the process of this whole leadership turnover. So McCarthy may be in the clear after the conference vote today, but there will be a floor vote later, and there will be plenty of races after that to fill his old slot and fill all of the other leadership slots for Republicans.
That's assuming that he wins.
Yes.
It looks like, as of yesterday, he will not have the support of the Freedom Caucus.
Well, that's pretty much to be expected. They were the ones who have taken credit or have been given credit for Boehner deciding that he needed to vacate his seat and leave his spot as Speaker of the House. But, they've decided to go with Daniel Webster, and it's no surprise that they decided to go with a candidate that issues their issues a little bit better. McCarthy, for the fact that he was kind of the likely successor to Boehner, really isn't the most progressive, the most far-right candidate that was out there. He's kind of a middle-of-the-road guy. He is part of the Young Guns group that came in with Eric Cantor and Paul Ryan, and at the time they seemed pretty far-right, but things have shifted in recent years.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to consider Kevin McCarthy a moderate just shows how far-right things have shifted. But my question about the Freedom Caucus, there are like 40 of them, correct? Is that...
Well, we don't exactly know how many there are. They keep their membership roster private, though most estimates have them around 40, 45.
Okay. So do they really expect to win with a Freedom Caucus nominee, or are they just negotiating and they want whatever they want, more power, more committee chairmanships, or or more credit or something. I mean, is that what this is all about? Are they like trying to wheel and deal?
Well, if you ask them, they say that they do believe that they can get a conservative speaker of their choosing through. And, I'm not entirely certain that committee chairmanships are where their eyes are at this moment. I think their prize for them is a greater voice in leadership in general. Though the question has always been whether or not their tactics are the most likely to get them success in a body like the House. It certainly is not. It's more friendly to a revolt like we're seeing right now than the Senate is, but it is still a very large institution where it's difficult for an insurgent group like this to kind of take over the reins.
Kelsey Snell is our guest. She covers Congress for the Washington Post, WashingtonPost.com. The question looming, of course, with the Congress just having passed last week a short-term CR to keep the government running until mid-December, is whether or not the big next vote, and whether that's going to lead to a government shutdown over Planned Parenthood or over the debt ceiling. Is John Boehner going to be able to resolve that before he leaves, or is that going to land in the lap of the next speaker?
I think the best bet is that he is not going to be able to resolve all of the issues, though he has a good chance to resolve some of them. I think that the conversation that we're hearing happen the most is speculation that Boehner could try to handle the debt limit before he leaves. The debt ceiling needs to be increased by November 5th, and his last day as Speaker is October 30th. It's a little bit difficult to see how the next Speaker could realistically handle a debt limit increase within just a few days of taking the reins of a very fractured caucus.
Right. So November 5 is the deadline for the debt ceiling.
Right.
And Boehner might be able to do that, but not get a vote on the on a new continuing resolution. Which what is it? Is it December 16? Do I recall?
December 11th.
December 11th.
Yes.
Okay.
So the expectation is that negotiations will have to continue on that, and it's really an open question right now on whether or not they'll be able to get the 2-year spending deal that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has said he would prefer, or if they just don't have the ability to negotiate, and if there's no central position in the House, and they'll be stuck doing some sort of long-term continuing resolution that could fund the government for 3, 6, 9, even maybe 9 months or maybe a year.
On another issue, there was some criticism after the Roseburg shooting last Thursday, a week ago today, actually, that nobody in Congress, no Democrats in Congress, in the House or the Senate, had come forward to talk about the need for some new gun safety legislation. That changed yesterday with some Senate Democrats announcing that they intend to, I think it was yesterday, right, introduce legislation. Were you able to follow that, and who's involved, and what are they proposing?
Yeah, so it actually, it's supposed to be unveiled today. They started giving little tidbits of information out to members yesterday. Senator Chuck Schumer and Debbie Stabenow started circulating a letter to their colleagues, letting them know that they're going to be releasing 3 principles on gun control that they would like to use to build legislation in the future. I understand that it has the support of a large number of Democrats at this point, including Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid. The idea is that they're going to release these principles today and then go through the process of building support and kind of writing the legislation over the course of several months. It'll include, they say that it'll include language to close what they're calling the gun show loophole and the online sale loophole, and they also plan to expand background checks and make it, and tighten up some of the restrictions for the way guns are sold, and make it, give broader opportunities for reporting to the federal gun database.
Well, of course, the last time we had a vote on this in the Senate, or the last time there was any serious effort, was the bipartisan effort between Joe Manchin from West Virginia and Pat Toomey from Pennsylvania. And everybody thought, Republican and Democrat together on this. This was for universal background checks, a very, everybody thought a safe measure, right, where both sides had compromised. And yet they couldn't get the votes for that. What makes them think there's any better chance today?
That is the question of the day. Why do they think that they can get the votes now? I think one of the reasons they think they can get more votes is all but one of the 4 Democrats who voted against that bill are no longer in Congress. The only person left is Heidi Heitkamp. And they seem to feel comfortable with losing one Democrat on this issue. And they seem to believe that they'll be able to pick up a couple of Republicans. But there's really no guarantee that they'll even ever get a vote on this, because when Manchin-Toomey came up, that was under Democratic-controlled Senate, and now you have Senator Mitch McConnell saying, that he's even skeptical of some other measures. And there's a competing gun control bill from Senator John Cornyn from Texas that focuses on the mental health aspects of gun control.
So next week we have Columbus Day on Monday, right?
Right. Actually, both the House and the Senate are out next week.
That's the point I was going to make. Most people, if there's a holiday like that, they celebrate that one holiday, not the Congress. If Congress is going to take the entire week off, right? So they can recover from Columbus Day. Yeah.
Well, they typically go back to their home districts and do some outreach there. If you want to grab your local
Kelsey.
congressman,
come on, that's what they say.
They've gotten to you.
Yeah, we know the truth.
Well, if your listeners want to go out there and grab their local congressman, next week would be, I guess, the week to do it.
Or they might try the Bahamas. To do. All right, hey Kelsey. Good work. You got a lot to cover there. Keep you running, keep you busy. Thanks for taking time for us this morning.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. At thewashingtonpost.com, Kelsey Snell.
Like politics? Then like The Bill Press Show on Facebook. This is The Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are 3 incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we are, 26 minutes after the hour. In the next segment, next half hour, we'll be visiting with, yes, we found one, a progressive banker, Keith Mestrich, president of Amalgamated Bank. Right now, a little breaking news just popped up. Lost it on my phone.
What do you got?
Damn it, I had it here. Oh, the Nobel Prize.
I got it right here.
The Nobel Prize for Literature has just been named. Just what I was going to give it. I lost on the phone. It is a novelist from Belarusia.
Yeah, Belarus.
I must admit, I'm a little thin on Belarus literature.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's a whole
What's this guy's name?
Genre. Svetlana.
Oh, her name.
Alexievich. Svetlana Alexievich.
All right. Congratulations, Svetlana.
Svetlana of Belarus.
Yes. Close. I'll have to check her out. Closer to home here, Hillary Clinton. Maybe surprising, the White House yesterday, the TPP, they announced that they made a deal. We haven't seen it yet, but even before it became public, Hillary Clinton on PBS NewsHour last night with our good friend Judy Woodruff says that from what she knows about it, she can't go along with it.
What I know about it as of today, I am not in favor of what I have learned about it.
Which, again, is a body blow to President Obama and a big boost to Democrats in the House and Senate who would like to kill the deal. Hillary says currency manipulation is one thing, measures against that is one thing that's lacking.
I'm worried. I'm worried about currency manipulation not being part of the agreement. We've lost American jobs to the manipulations that countries, particularly in Asia, have engaged in.
It's a big switcheroo for Hillary Clinton, too. As Secretary of State, she was a big supporter of the deal. She has reversed herself and now opposes the deal. And Bernie Sanders, by the way, said, hey, welcome on board. I've been there a long time. We'll be back with Keith Mestrich from Amalgamated
This
Bank.
is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks.
And 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness.
My beauty.
My power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired.
Tapped.
And tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TalkerTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, Thursday, October 8th. Here we go on The Bill Press Show, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. and booming out to you nationwide on your local progressive talk radio station. Of course, glad to be there with you, and also looking at you on TV, on Free Speech TV, and worldwide on our video stream, youtube.com/Talker, TAWKR-TV. Our studio here on Capitol Hill, where we're brought to you today by the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. Good men and women of the Teamsters Union under President Jim Hoffa. We all live better because of their good work. And you can find out more about all the many things they're up to, including a big campaign that they've launched together with leaders of the business community to try to get Congress to do the right thing about putting money to rebuild our failing infrastructure and create millions of jobs across America. Go to the website at teamster.org. Yes, there may be no industry or no profession more maligned these days than bankers. So we've been on the search for a progressive banker. You don't think it's possible to find. We found one. Keith Mestrich is president and CEO of Amalgamated Bank and joins us in studio this morning. Hey, Keith, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Bill.
What makes it? What's the different? Why is Amalgamated Bank different? First of all, you got a lot of support from labor unions, right?
We do, absolutely. We were founded in 1923 by a union.
Whoa, that far back.
That's 92 years. And we were founded by the Amalgamated Clothing Workers at a time when there was no formal labor unions in this country, if you think about it. The National Labor Relations Act was not passed until 1935. And in 1923, workers didn't have an election system to be able to get representation in the workplace, so they had to do social unionism kind of things to build their membership. And the Amalgamated did great things. They built a ton of affordable housing in New York City. They founded a bank, an insurance company, a whole system of health clinics, and they really created a community amongst the million garment workers that were in the city at that time.
So what can you do differently then? Unlike most banks where just all the profit goes to, the shareholders or the executives, right? You try to pour back into the community? Is that...
Absolutely. Let me give you one example. Right? Yeah. The banking industry is the wealthiest industry in the entire country. Most successful industry, tons of people who are just doing very well at the top in that industry. But there's a dirty little secret in the banking industry, and that's that the biggest occupation in the banking industry is a teller, and the average wage for tellers in this country is $12 an hour. And
the average wage of your bank executive
is $12 million or something like that. At $12 an hour, and so we decided that we would take a stand and that we would take a portion of our profits and make sure that we shared it with our employees. And we were the first bank in the country to say that we were going to sign on to this campaign for a $15 an hour minimum wage, and we raised the minimum wage for everybody at our bank to $15 an hour and called on the rest of the industry to do the same. If there's any industry in this country that can afford to pay their workers $15 an hour, it's the banking industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, bravo. And what kind of response have you gotten from other banks?
Well, first of
They're
all,
rushing to get on board, right?
First of all, our employees who were making less than $15 an hour loved it. But there has not been a rush to sign on to it, as you might believe. The banking industry has been completely reluctant to even want to talk about it. They don't want people to think about the fact that they pay their tellers and security guards and janitors and food service workers something less than
a minimum wage, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You would and you would think again and it seems to be a powerful message here that if the wealthiest industry in the country is not doing it, I mean,
how can anybody else, right?
And they should be setting the example.
Right. And everybody thinks about, exactly as you said, Bill, everybody thinks about the people at the top making gobs and gobs of money. They forget that the industry is filled with low-wage workers, and we need to take a stand and make sure that we can be leaders on this issue and hopefully watch the rest of the industry follow.
I have done several programs with the American Bankers Association. And some of my liberal friends always say, well, what are you doing hanging out with those guys? But what I found is even with that group, a lot of them resent what's happening on Wall Street and with the big banks, and they think the big banks have really given the little banks a bad name. Is that true?
I think that's right. There are many. I know now a lot of community bankers who really want to just do the right thing. They want to be leaders in their community. They want to help small businesses grow. They want to help people buy their first home. They want to do the right things. And they're not like the big investment banks that have done the things that people associate the banks with now. There's a lot of good people in the banking industry. We need to recognize that and be able to support them.
Yeah, you mentioned the community banks, and they're the people that really almost, in a community like that, they know you, you know them, right? Do you trust them and depend on them?
Absolutely. One of the real tragedies in the wake of the financial crisis of 2008, quite rightly, the federal regulators have tightened up on the standards, making sure that banks do good loans, good quality loans. I support that 100%. People should do that. But one of the bad things that has happened is that it has made it hard for small banks to support small businesses and provide a lot of access to credit in that area. That's a problem that we have to take care of, and that's a problem that the banking industry cannot solve without the government coming in to actually help.
Now, I'm sure you've looked at this when somebody's looking around to choose a bank, right? And there are a lot of choices, let's face it. What are they looking for? What do consumers want out of a bank?
Well, I think they want a decent interest rate, which has been hard to pay since 2008.
Yeah,
I think they want. I think they want good services. Increasingly, they want good online services. They want to have like we want in everything in our life now. You want to be able to go on your smartphone or your computer to be able to do it. We need to offer all those services. But we also think that what people want a little bit, or at least what progressives want, is a bank with a conscience and a bank that has a purpose in life, and is not going to contribute to the kinds of things that led to the downfall in 2008. But they want to have a bank that stands up against income inequality, a bank that stands up for diversity in the workplace, a bank that stands up for all the kinds of progressive principles that we believe in. But they want all those other things as well, so you have to offer both.
But there's a phrase, a bank with a conscience, right?
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's like a banker with a heart. Yeah, we used to always, in San Francisco, always laugh at, the Bank of America building in San Francisco, and there's that great big black rock on the plaza. It's a sculpture.
Yep.
In San Francisco, it's called that was a banker's heart. That big blank that black rock there. But you mentioned online. I wanted to ask you about that. How many people today actually walk into a bank and talk to a teller?
Well, I don't know that number, but,
right. Well,
but we see the number
percentage-wise.
We see the number of transactions that actually happen on site in our banks declining rapidly. People just don't need to come into the traditional bricks and mortar kind of facility anymore. Businesses that do that or organizations that bank with us almost never come to the bank at all, and individuals increasingly less so. You can take a picture of a check and deposit it with your phone. We're less and less and less in a cash economy all the time. My kids never carry cash. They just make every transaction with their debit card. And they do that. So it is declining rapidly, and it means the banking industry has to respond to come up with the products and tools that really allow people to lead the kind of lives that they want to lead.
It used to be that you could only use your credit card, had to be $10 bucks or whatever. But now you can.
Now you buy your Starbucks coffee in the morning and do a quick swipe. And do that. You ever talk to a taxi driver anymore about how many transactions are done with cash? Only like 10% of the transactions are done by cash in a taxi cab anymore.
Which always worries me because I'm not sure they get their tips.
I'm not sure they do either. Although I have noticed that the default tip now is 20% in the cab. So, so maybe they're getting a little bit more. Actually,
and they allow you as much as 25%. And I always look at that and I'm, that's pretty generous. But I usually do it anyhow. Peter, how often do you go to a bank?
I go to the bank I go a couple times a week.
No,
I go
do?
like twice a week. Actually, I'll tell you. One of the reasons I do is because
that's really.
I'm the exception, but I go mostly because we have the nanny and we pay cash and things like that. So that's why I go to the bank.
That's the real need. If you have cash needs, you have to go. To the
that's
bank
it. That's it. If I need to get cash, that's why I go to the bank.
The underground economy. But,
right.
But you're talking about an ATM.
Yes.
No. Right?
Yeah.
When you say go to the bank.
I don't go inside. I haven't stepped foot inside my bank.
That's really what I'm talking about. Inside the bank to have an exchange or an operation.
Did you see this this piece in the Wall Street Journal earlier this week about how much, though, the fees that many banks are charging for ATMs has gone up? So the average fee is now $4.50 to get money out of the bank. That's
and
crazy.
By the way, that's on both sides, right? Like if you're using an ATM that's not out of yours, you'll have to pay the $4.50, $5 to use that, but then your bank on the back end will also charge another $4, $5. So in the end, you might be paying $10 just for the privilege of using that ATM.
They don't have to. We have a whole network of 50,000 ATMs around the country. Us and other community banks, by the way. It's not just us. Figure out a way to actually have a network where people don't have to pay anything to get their money out of a bank. It's just another way,
that's huge,
right? That a lot of the banks have found ways to rip off the consumer when they can't get a lot of interest on their loans. They're finding other ways to make money, and it's just not fair.
No, I'm so glad you went there because that's where I was heading to. Because I remember when the credit cards first kind of started out there, it was these are free, right? Won't cost you a dime, and then it was $1. If you were not at your own bank, right? And now it's what? What's the average?
That average is now $4.50.
What a ripoff!
It's crazy. The average deduction that comes out or withdrawal from an ATM machine is $60. So if you're paying $4.50 to get $60 out of the bank, that's a pretty usurious rate, really.
Yeah, it really is. I'm going to ask you when we come back about where your branches are and how many, but if people want to reach out, it's Amalgamated Bank Amalgamated.com?
Yep, that's exactly right. Amalgamatedbank.com.
Amalgamatedbank.com. Keith Mestrich here, President and CEO. Your questions, your comments, welcome at 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV. This is the Bill Press Show.
12 minutes before the top of the hour, Joe Cirincione from the Ploughshares Fund, our own foreign policy guru, joins us at the top of the next hour. Lots to talk about. And right now we're talking about banking with a heart, a bank with a conscience, Amalgamated Bank. Indeed, Keith Mestrich is the president and CEO, not the founder. That was back in 1923.
I'm not that old.
You weren't around then. You've been around since 1923. Where can people find a branch of the Amalgamated Bank?
So we have 14 branches in the New York City metropolitan area.
Whoa.
Many in Manhattan, but in the outer boroughs as well. We have one here in Washington, D.C., and we have one in Los Angeles.
And is there again, it's amalgamatedbank.org.
.com.
I'm sorry, .com. Thank you. Is there a network of banks, other progressive banks that have formed a network like you that
There are a few banks in this country and around the world who try and take on a mission-based objective like we do. There's a bank in California that really focuses on the environmental community. And there is a new resource bank out in California that tries and do some things. But we are by far and away the largest mission-based banking institution in this country or really in the world.
Yeah, check it out at amalgamatedbank.com. Again.
And people don't need to go to our branch, Bill. They can go online and they can open an account and they can do whatever they want online.
That's the point. No, they can do that.
If you're a progressive and you live in Wyoming, the few progressives that live in Wyoming, you can open a bank account and bank with us as well.
Just don't tell Dick Cheney. Right. No, but that's true. I mean, you don't have to think about one you can walk to anymore.
No,
right?
that's absolutely not.
Right. So nationwide, wherever you are, amalgamatedbank.com. In general, in your role as president of a bank, you look at the American economy. How are we doing today?
Well, Bill, I tell you what, I'm a little worried. I mean, you watch what's happening around the world, and it is not a rosy picture. And we are starting to see that in sort of the trade deficit figures and some other things now, that the perils economically around the world are starting to seep into the American economy. And what I'm worried about is after this long period of sustained no interest rates, there are no monetary tools left for the Fed to really do to act if the economy goes south. And unfortunately, our Congress is completely unwilling to use the traditional fiscal tools of taxation and spending policy to try and resolve our problems. So I think there's reason to be concerned.
Are you do you, in terms of Dodd-Frank or the Wall Street, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, of course, are saying Dodd-Frank's a joke. Has Dodd-Frank made any difference, or do we need more tougher regulations on Wall Street?
Dodd-Frank was a brilliant piece of legislation. It is difficult to be a bank executive and say that. It is not a popular position. But the reality is that the banking and financial services industry brought our economy close to the brink of collapse. And the boards of directors of companies were asleep at the switch. Companies had gotten greedy, and we really needed to put the fixes in place to make sure that there were adequate capital protections, to make sure that banks had resources if loans went bad. We needed the consumer protections that were in place and that got put in place by Dodd-Frank.
And this new Consumer Finance Protection Bureau.
It's a great thing to prevent abuses from happening. The reality is bank regulation in this country is aimed at making sure that the economy does not collapse, that banks don't fail. That would be terrible. And what the bank regulators do is they come in and they perform a check to make sure that banking is done in a safe and sound manner. I'm a big fan of it. I'm supportive of it, and I think we need to make sure that we adequately support the institutions that provide that check on the economy.
So you'd certainly be against any efforts to derail or to gut Dodd-Frank, which the Republicans have been trying to do ever since. Does it go far enough?
Oh, I think so. I think the protections that are in place in Dodd-Frank are sound ones. I don't know that we necessarily need to go any further, but we shouldn't weaken the law. That's for sure.
All right. Have the bankers taken any position on the 2016 presidential contest?
I am going to support whoever the Democratic candidate for president is. It's not a secret. We make a business in banking the Democratic Party. Many of the Democratic candidates are clients of the bank. We're very proud to do that. We offer a great service to not only the presidential candidates, but to many other candidates as well.
And many of the Democratic Party committees as well, correct?
Absolutely. I'm not sure where other banking executives will be. Some of them will be in support of the Democrats, but a bunch of them are going to be on the other side of the table.
You bet they are. you know they will be. Keith, great getting to know you. Great to know more about your work there at Amalgamated Bank. Thanks so much for coming in
Thanks
today.
for having me, Bill. I appreciate it.
And don't forget, folks, wherever you are, you can check in, maybe become a customer here at amalgamatedbank.com. We'll be right back.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, I know you love the first 2 hours, so you're going to love the third hour, maybe even more. Remember, you won't see the third hour until 5 o'clock Eastern on Free Speech TV, 2 Pacific. but you can watch it right away on Talker TV, youtube.com/Talker TV. Joe Cirincione, our foreign policy guru, will be here at the top of the next hour to talk about what's happening in Syria with Russia bearing down in support of President Assad. And Margaret Talev will join us from Bloomberg, covers the White House for Bloomberg. Two big guests in studio with us in hour number 3, so don't miss it on Talker TV or Free Speech TV.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear we had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves, should I get back? What do people really hate? Yep. Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
Press Show.
Let's see now. The president apologizes to the head of Doctors Without Borders.
Check.
The Russians are out there shooting off missiles to help President Assad in Syria.
Check.
Iran is sending ground fighters to Syria. You know, I guess the bottom line is the world is just an absolute mess, and somebody's got to straighten it out. Maybe Joe Cirincione can do so. Do you think?
I wonder if we can get him in the studio.
Maybe at the top of the next hour. It's up to him. Nobody else can fix it. We'll have to count on Joe. President Obama, he's got time. He doesn't have much on the schedule today. He and the vice president get the daily briefing at 10 o'clock, and then nothing else on the calendar until 8 o'clock tonight, where he will be going over to the convention center here in Washington, D.C., and delivering remarks at the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute's 30th Anniversary Awards Gala. We have our gala this afternoon with Press Secretary Josh Earnest at 12:30 at the White House, where we'll be beating him up on anything we can think of. Again, in the next hour, Joe Cirincione starts us off from the Ploughshares Fund, and then we'll be joined by Margaret Talev, who covers the White House for Bloomberg. And, of course, always looking for your calls at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The hardest moments for me is when I'm laying awake in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about all the times I made a pitcher of Kool-Aid with the water, or I boiled a pot of corn or potatoes with the water. Those thoughts just stick with me in the middle of the night. And I feel horrible as a mom that I didn't know that something was wrong, but how could I have known? There's no way I would have known.
The spill at Dan River happened when a drainage pipe that ran underneath an ash basin and dam collapsed, sucking out 6 decades of waste and spewing gunk directly into the river.
My husband and I just kind of looked at each other like, should we be concerned? We live right next to an ash pond, and this was coal ash spilling into the Dan River, and we learned at that point all of the toxins that were included in coal ash.
A situation like Dan River, where there was a catastrophic disaster, gets people's attention, but the fact is that these coal ash pits have been leaking and poisoning people's groundwater and the state's surface waters for decades. Coal ash is the residue left behind after coal is burned in a coal-fired power plant. A large coal-fired power plant can burn 10 million tons of coal a year. When the organic matter in the coal is burned away, what's left behind are these trace minerals, things like arsenic, lead, mercury, selenium, and chromium. And these are highly concentrated. The coal ash can have concentrations of these contaminants that are 10 to 100 times greater than the level in the coals themselves.
Coal ash pond number 1 is right behind my house, literally pretty much in my backyard. We were approached by a neighbor who was wanting to have their well tested, and we decided that maybe we should have ours tested as well. They found hexavalent chromium at 4.5 parts per billion.
So in talking to the residents, we have discovered anecdotal evidence of an extraordinary number of cancers for this fairly small community.
Some of us in the community got together. We started kind of talking about all the cancer that we've seen in some of our family friends in this community. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 70 names. So we had some help from our river keepers putting a map together, and it was a little shocking to see it. You know, I still have a hard time looking at it.
Technically, EPA has not regulated coal ash as a hazardous waste, but it is undeniable that coal ash contains many, many hazardous substances that are hazardous, in fact, to people and the environment. And the only reason they have not been regulated as such is because of intense lobbying efforts by the coal industry and its allies.
A lot of these chemicals are simple elements, but when you find them at the levels that they exist in around coal ash ponds, then you're starting to talk about cancer, brain tumors, you're talking about birth defects, developmental problems, neurotoxicity.
We began to look at legal options, cases that we could bring in court to protect communities and their citizens from these toxic leaking time bombs. In 2002, North Carolina enacted a public financing mechanism for judicial elections. This kept private money out of judicial elections.
The repeal of the public financing program in judicial elections in North Carolina creates a dangerous precedent for all, and it gives corporate polluters and other special interests the opportunity to elect the judges that they want. And this is important for us all. Everyone should care about this. Because when you think about the fact that the state and the federal government have basically abdicated their responsibility to regulate these issues. The state courts are the last stopgap.
I think this is no longer a problem that's going to go under the radar. It has been exposed, and I am confident that we will ultimately, with the facts, win out and ensure that we have protected waterways.
And so this is something that we all should care about. If we're worried about the water we drink and the air we breathe, we have to be concerned about money in judicial elections.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hillary Clinton says, you know that TPP? I don't like it. She used to like it. She doesn't now. Big defeat, big bad news for President Obama. And good news for the Democrats in the Congress who've been trying to kill TPP. Hello, everybody. Lots going on here. It's a Thursday, October 8th. The Bill Press Show coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. We're right in the heart of the action on Capitol Hill, booming out to you on your local progressive talk radio station nationwide. And, of course, on Free Speech TV. And if you look at all the news today, Russian missiles help Syrians go on the offensive is the headline in the New York Times this morning. Obama, the other side of the page, Obama issues rare apology over bombing. The world's going to hell in a handbasket. Somebody's got to save it. Joe Cirincione.
There he is.
It's up to you, babe. How you doing?
I can explain it. I don't know about saving it.
From the Ploughshares Fund here, joining us in studio again today. Always good to see you, Joe. Thanks for coming in.
Pleasure to be here, Bill. Thanks.
Yeah. And say hello to our team, Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Here we are.
Hello there. Ray Rogers, ready to take your calls, okay? And Monty Kensler here, our videographer today, with Cyprian still off in Madrid. The last time I saw Joe Cirincione, actually, was in the Metro. Carol and I were going off in one direction. Joe was going in the other direction, heading for his last Nats game of the season.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which game was that, Joe? Was that one of the good ones or one of the bad ones?
It was one of the bad ones.
It was one of the bad ones,
as we slumped toward the end of the season.
Right. But so the Nats slump, we have to look for another team to be excited about. And boy, we found one last night.
Yeah.
In Chicago, the Cubs versus the Pirates for the wild card. And boy, what a game it was. Here is the call on what's that station? WBBM in Chicago.
Swinging a line drive, caught by Castro. Cubs win. Jay Garrietta pitches a shutout. And the Cubs start to celebrate on the infield here at PNC Park. Goodbye, Pittsburgh. Hello, St. Louis.
Pretty exciting, Joe.
It is exciting. It's a tough division. Three top teams, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, Cubs, fighting all the way. The pitcher pitches a shutout, pitches into the ninth inning, steals a base.
He's a freak.
No,
did
he really?
Yeah, he stole a base.
Yeah,
The
that pitcher is the
base.
story of the year in baseball, as far as I'm concerned, because he's just got the team on his back. And the Cubs look amazing. They look amazing. They got this great new manager.
They're playing the Cardinals, which I think we can all agree are the worst team in baseball.
What are you talking about?
The easiest to hate, I should say.
Yeah,
the easiest to hate. The worst fans.
They got to stop winning.
I hate the Cardinals.
Like
I hate the Cardinals.
Everybody in Washington.
We should all join together collectively as a nation and root against the Cardinals. Go Cubs. I'm all on board.
All right. Okay. So all of our friends out of WCPT in Chicago, we are there with you. We are all Cub fans. I think I've always felt that the Cubs are everybody's, like, if not number one team, the second favorite team, right?
Yes,
This
exactly.
is something about them, really.
Yeah. Scrappy, can't come close over the years. Haven't had one. When's the last time they won a World Series? Won a World Series. I mean, it's 70 years.
1905.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. So this is it, man. Right. This could be their year.
Hug a Cub fan if you see one, because they are so uncomfortable in the postseason. They're ready for it to all come crashing down. They're not prepared to go any farther than where they've gone already. But go Cubs.
Go Cubs.
That's true. Ninth inning, I texted a Cubs fan.
Yeah.
They were up 4-0. They had 2 outs. He's celebrating? Not yet. We're still nervous.
Okay, we got it. Joe here for the first half hour, then Margaret Talev from Bloomberg News joining us. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Okay, so it's not quite the holiday season, but Neiman Marcus put out their Christmas book. They do this every year. And it's a list of the most extravagant things that you can buy from Neiman Marcus that they put together.
They do a catalog. Right?
This is it. This is the catalog. This is the Christmas book, they call it, because it's gotten so big, and they put unattainable items in there that you can buy for Christmas. So if you've got a couple of extra $100,000 laying around, here's what you could buy from Neiman Marcus. The big item is, for $150,000, you can buy one of these motorcycles built by Keanu Reeves. And that price tag includes a 2-day motorcycle trip through Malibu and Santa Monica with Keanu Reeves.
Wow.
Only cost you $150,000 to hang out with him. What else could you get? A $400,000 dream trip to India. A 95...
Wait a minute. No, there's no such thing as a dream trip to India.
Knew that was coming, Bill.
Yeah,
you could buy a $95,000 Neiman Marcus branded Mustang, a $90,000 balloon ride that will take you and 5 guests 100,000 feet up into the air, and for $80,000, you can get a 5-foot-tall trunk of Iris Apfel jewels along with a personal styling session. So if you want to get that, go for it.
A trunk full of jewels.
A trunk full of jewels.
And for $25, you can have lunch with Bill Press.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a footnote.
I know you guys have had problems with this. On Instagram, they have a pretty strict nudity policy, okay? There's a whole hashtag going around called Free the Nipple, because women, if they show their bare breasts on Instagram, the photos get taken down, right? But men can pose shirtless, women cannot on Instagram. And it's a thing. There are feminists and activists who think that that's sexist. They want to be able to show naked women on Instagram. So yesterday, Instagram opened the door a little bit. They were doing a panel discussion with Mashable, and they said that they are working on an R-rated version of Instagram. So we might be able to see... What?
No, I don't like this story. Okay,
I'm just saying.
All right. No, go ahead.
You sure?
No, yes.
Are you sure?
No, we're going to...
One more, but this is it.
Okay, this is the last story. You said the last...
I want to talk to Joe.
You said the last time you saw Joe, you were on the Metro. Yesterday, a woman was arrested on the Metro. She was at the West Falls Church Station out in Virginia. She decided that she was going to do yoga on the Metro train tracks. She got down onto the tracks and started doing yoga. She wasn't alone. Someone came down there with her to take photos of her doing yoga, like a headstand, in the middle of the Metro train tracks. The surveillance footage caught her. The police caught up with her. She has been arrested because you cannot do that.
And her caption said she didn't know she couldn't do it.
Oh,
like what?
I knew that as a kid when I didn't live anywhere even close to a subway. You don't get on the tracks.
There's also a thing called a third rail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. All right.
Look at the photo.
You
Look at the photo, Joe. She's in the middle of the tracks.
Are you finished?
I'm done.
All right.
I'll tweet that out, by the way, at BT Show, if you want to see the photos of the woman doing yoga at DC Metro.
Joe, let's start with the apology. How often does an American president apologize?
Very rarely, and I'm very glad he did, because we've been.
It's the right thing to do.
It absolutely is, and we knew this was a mistake from day one, but the weeks dragged on. The Army didn't apologize. Department of Defense didn't apologize. Commanders didn't apologize. 22 people killed in this Doctors Without Borders facility, 3 children. Clearly wrong, a horrendous attack. This is an AC-130 gunship. You sometimes see these in the movies. So it was, this is a thing that was circling around, mass dropping bombs, machine gunning the facility for over 40 minutes. A real tragedy. Finally, the president mans up and apologizes.
And it doesn't look like that they were attacking another target and some bombs just happened to veer off and hit this hospital. I mean, this was a direct shot at this hospital, wasn't it?
That's at first what they were saying, collateral damage, but it was clear this was called in by an Afghan commander, so one of the troops that were aiding there. Why the Afghan commander called in that strike, I don't know. Lots of times in these situations, there were rivalries.
Isn't there some filter between that they can't respond or take every call as legitimate, correct?
No, the Afghan commander, relayed the request to the U.S. military advisor. We still have several thousand troops there acting in this role, and the commander called it in, and that's when the tragedy began.
Now, in connection with this, the president has now said, the White House is telling us at our briefings, that the president is now considering or open to, however they put it, as a result of the resurgence of the Taliban, to leaving more American troops in Afghanistan beyond 2016, when we're supposed to all come out. So,
and you can understand the pull on that and why people do that. I don't know how you feel about this, Bill, but I want us out of there as quickly as possible.
So do I. You're right. I think the American people do.
I mean, look at this. Look at this incident. And how do you think the Afghan people respond to this? It doesn't matter that we might have done 10 very good things fighting the Taliban over the last month. We do this, and it cements Afghan opinion against us, fuels the ranks of the Taliban.
So it could be that President Obama leaves office with troops still in Afghanistan, and I can't say troops, but American military still in Iraq.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. It is possible. He's been trying to, you could say that he's ended the U.S. war. This to his credit. He has pulled us out of Afghanistan. We don't have American casualties every week in Iraq anymore, but there are still advisors, and there's still a desire by some of the military to stay in, to keep a foothold, perhaps in the hope that the next president might escalate again.
Okay. And in in terms of American advisors in Iraq, of course, they are there for the fight against ISIS. Mm-hmm. And now we've got Russia there as well. And I saw a headline this morning, I knew this was going to happen, where U.S. fighter planes had to divert in order to avoid a collision with a Russian fighter or a Russian fighter plane. I mean, we've got two countries
There's so much
right
to talk
in
about.
the air over Syria, hitting different targets with these planes flying around. Joe, this is a disaster in the making, isn't it?
It is. And let me so this is Washington, and there's lots of groups like the one I was with yesterday. I was with a group of Russians and Americans, former senior officials, and talking about this. And this what they call sort of track 2 dialogues. It's not government, but it's one step removed from government. And we were all concerned about this situation. Whether you agree that Russia should be there or agree that the U.S. should be there, this is the issue, avoiding an unintended conflict. And it's getting closer and closer. And I got to tell you, our view was it is going to happen.
Ooh.
It is going to happen unless we take immediate steps, deconflict, have military-to-military talks, which might start later this week. We'll see, because we're just cheek and jowl with them. The Russians are operating hundreds of miles away from where the U.S. is operating.
Yeah.
It's way too close for comfort.
Right. Well, so Josh Earnest told us yesterday at the briefing we need some rules of the road.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, how do you lay those down when you've got?
Oh, there are precedents for this.
Are there?
There are, avoiding incidents at sea agreements, for example, where, and this has happened even during the height of the Cold War, where there's clear zones of operation. Military commanders will communicate with each other. That can't happen. It even, I mean, the hope is that Russia shifts from attacking the forces that are actually allied with the U.S., like the Free Syrian Army, and goes and does what they say they're doing in Syria, which is attacking the ISIS targets. If that happens, if Russia was actually to start the ISIS attack targets, you might see it shift from deconflicting to actual U.S.-Russian cooperation in this fight, but that's a ways away.
All right, so for these rules of the road to be established, you have to have the Russian military and the American military talking to each other,
yes.
Right? Which means Putin's got to give the green light there.
That's exactly right. He hasn't yet.
He hasn't yet.
Yeah.
Right. So what is Putin's real motive in Syria?
Well, if he wanted to get attention, he certainly has.
Right.
He certainly has.
Yes.
I mean, it's not just moving in several dozen major warplanes now, and now bringing in Russian advisors. So let's get this clear. There are Russian ground forces advisors moving into the country to obviously protect the Air Force and to start serving as some advice. This has already helped stabilize the Assad regime.
Yeah.
The Assad regime was on its heels, was not able to advance. They're now advancing because of this Russian air cover that's being provided. Much heavier bombardment than the Syrians are able to do. Much better bombardment than the Syrians are able to do. And now, just yesterday, he added a new wrinkle, cruise missiles. I don't know if people have caught up with this story yet.
Yeah.
Launched from the Caspian Sea.
Yes.
The Caspian Sea is not on the border of Syria.
No, that's the headline in the New York Times. Russian missiles. They're talking about cruise missiles. Yeah, from warships in the Caspian Sea.
22 cruise missiles, advanced cruise missiles, new. And in some ways, this is what militaries around the world love to do. They love to get their weapons used in combat, proven in combat. It helps with their contracts.
Uh-huh.
So the Russians are no different than the Americans. And here, there's brand new cruise missile, 22 of them launched. If you see the map, it's like a Google map. Go left, turn right. Go left, turn right.
Yeah, they had to cross
zigzags across Iran and Iraq.
Yes.
So that also shows that Russia's cooperating with Iran and Iraq, and we knew this was coming, and here it is. So all of a sudden, our ally, Iraq, is in close cahoots with people we consider our adversaries, Iran and Russia. And so there's no question Russia is advancing its at least military presence and sort of regional strategic image.
So suddenly it looks like in Syria it's Russia, Iran, and Syria against the United States.
Well, they say they're against ISIS, of course, and the rebels fighting Assad. And it's not exactly... And so we are also fighting ISIS, but there is a...
But Putin wants to prop up Assad. I mean, he wants Assad to... Yeah. And Assad is...
Right. So the hope... I mean, the short... You can make short-term games like this. I mean, when we started attacking ISIS, remember for the first few weeks, it was all about our strikes. Well, that was a year ago.
Right.
And then things bogged down. And what many advisors to the president believe is that in the medium and long run, this is a mistake for Putin. He's going to get bogged down. He's going to have to commit more and more, and he's not going to get anything out of this. This is a losing strategy.
Certainly ain't going to end soon. Pretty clear to that. Joe Cirincione here. We're trying to make sense of it all from Ploughshares, ploughshares.org. We'll be right back here on The Bill Press Show.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
Eye cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the area.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend.
My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay, so who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
For years and years. Yesterday, we got some sign that this is still a serious problem.
It is. AP broke a story that the Moldovan forces, in cooperation with the FBI, had busted up 4 recent attempts to smuggle nuclear materials to extremist groups in the Middle East. Some of the chilling part,
like ISIS.
One of the sellers was specifically trying to connect to ISIS. He had a very anti-American bent to him, and he was trying to sell them cesium. Cesium is a highly radioactive substance, perfect for a dirty bomb. A dirty bomb is a conventional explosive like dynamite, laced with a radioactive powder that can contaminate tens of square blocks of an urban
Where'd they
area.
get this stuff?
Well, cesium has a number of legitimate civilian and manufacturing uses, and so it's in hundreds of locations around the world, and these were in, we believe, Russian facilities that were smuggled into Moldova, and they were trying to make a couple of $1 million selling them to terrorists. It's just the scary part is that the connections between the demand and the supply are getting closer. You think things can't get worse in Syria? Wait.
Oh, man, that would make them really bad.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe, great to see you. Thanks for coming in. Ploughshares.org. Thanks, Joe.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, sports fans. Now, look, 3 weeks in a row,
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts. Stop the wrecks.
Before now, it's been difficult for criminals like us to know which states have loose gun laws. How would a criminal like me know which states permit me to carry loaded guns in their amusement parks, golf courses, or beaches?
I have some violent friends. We all wear leather jackets and scream at women. And we want to find out which states we can buy and sell guns easily.
CrimAdvisor.com. That's the site to find out where it's easiest for felons and fugitives to buy, carry, and even traffic guns.
That's why I love Arizona, where I can go see the beautiful Grand Canyon and carry a loaded gun without even having to get a background check.
You would fail that background check.
I'm sure of it. Now, what about a road trip? What states can I go to fill my trunk with guns and take it back home for my even more dangerous friends?
CrimAdvisor has a list for that.
That's so unreasonable.
Our traffickers' top 10.
Nevada. What happens in Vegas may have to stay in Vegas, but your guns don't. Bring them over to California and sell them.
The market up there is hungry for guns.
I understand that CrimAdvisor.com will tell me which states really cater to us criminals and creeps, but what about the states where we're not so welcome? The ones that don't get us?
I don't even like saying the name of these states, but California, Connecticut, Maryland, and New York all have laws to keep guns out of the hands of people like us.
I want to shoot California so bad.
Boo, California.
Boo, go home. Wow. CrimAdvisor.com has all this information?
Sure does.
CrimAdvisor.com. Plan your perfect getaway. Oh, like TripAdvisor.
Oh.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania. Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer. Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Help keep all the presidential candidates straight with your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
You make it 33 minutes after the hour, and you're right on target here. Thursday, October 8th. It is The Bill Press Show. We are here in our nation's capital. Lots going on to talk about. And we're brought to you today by the International Association of Machinists. Yep, at the job, on the job every day, sharpening America's edge on the global economy under President Tom Buffenbarger. For more information, check out their website at goiam.org. A kind of a stunning start to the press briefing at the White House yesterday when Josh Earnest says, before I take your questions, I've got just one little announcement to make, that the president called the head of Doctors Without Borders yesterday morning and apologized for the U.S. bombing of that hospital in Kunduz. Margaret Talev covers the White House every day for Bloomberg News. And Margaret, it's good to see you.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming in.
You
don't see that very often, do you?
No, and it seems like the easiest, most obvious thing, like something terrible happens at the hands of the U.S., of course you apologize. But it's not really that simple, because when you an apology from a president conveys things on different levels than an apology if I knock over your coffee accidentally or wrong you somehow, right? And so they had sort of held off on this. People went asking for days, is he going to apologize? And, well, there's an investigation underway. So this apology was a couple things, an acknowledgement pretty early in the investigation that it was obvious that this was the U.S.'s screw up, right? And also an acknowledgement that this was going to have major implications in the international community, the medical community, the Afghan community, the willingness of medical providers to set up these sort of hospitals around the world. It's a terrible thing.
And Doctors Without Borders is still saying, okay, it's good that the Pentagon is looking into this and NATO is looking into this. We need an independent humanitarian commission to look into it.
And there is this group, but tellingly, no one has ever used this group, and it's been set up for quite a while.
I never heard of this group, actually, that Dr. Liu, who's head of the Doctors Without Borders, mentioned, right?
It's this international commission that was set up a number of years ago, and I think that this is a little outside of my area of expertise, but anytime you have an international commission that's sort of beyond the bounds of any one individual country, the countries start to get nervous that they're going to open themselves up to some sort of liability that they won't be able to manage or control.
Especially when Doctors Without Borders is using the word war crimes.
That's a small hint. That could be a problem.
That's the last thing you may want to open yourself. But the day before at the briefing, Josh was saying, no apology. We're going to finish the investigation first, right? And then one day later, he says the president called to apologize. What happened overnight?
Well, I mean, a couple of things. Number one, the political realities changed, and there became an imperative for the White House to say more, for the president personally to say more and do more than he had. And two, testimony on the Hill from U.S. military officials that just basically up front said, look, the investigation's still ongoing, but we made a mistake.
Right. Now, so this happens in Afghanistan, of all places, where the president, we got out of the U.S. war in Iraq, and now ISIS pops up, and so that becomes a little ugly again, and we have American advisors in there. Okay, so Iraq's a mess. But Afghanistan, we ended that war. That's clean. We're done. We're out of there. And now suddenly we're back in the soup in Afghanistan.
We're not entirely out of there.
No, or may not be, right?
Or maybe faster. This is yet again another illustration. Look, President Obama obviously has been trying to pivot to Asia for since the minute he walked into the White House, and things keep happening, right? Yeah. In Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Syria, with Russia, with the Middle East. It's been really difficult to turn away from this region writ large, not just sort of the Middle East, but the expanded area around there. And the problem is that when you stay, things like this happen, and when you leave, things like ISIS happen, and maybe when you stay, things like ISIS happen too. So,
we were just talking about Joe Cirincione in the last half hour. I mean, it looks like the president, who wanted to end both wars, and to a certain extent did, but will leave office with American troops still in Afghanistan and American advisors, at least, still in Iraq.
It certainly looks that way,
doesn't it? Now, yeah.
Well, and it presents. Not that the politics is as important as the humanitarian truth, but it's important in an election year. It presents additional complications for Democratic candidates running for office. Because if you're a Republican, you can just be against whatever the president's done, and you can sort of be for what he's doing and against it at the same time, and nobody will bat an eye at you in the primary election, at least, and in the general, just blame Obama. But it's difficult if you're Hillary Clinton or or Joe Biden, who so far has stood by the president's policies. Maybe for Sanders, it's not quite as difficult. You can just because
He can do whatever he wants.
Because you're
Yeah,
running, that's
exactly.
right. I mean, because you're running
Exactly.
as the outsider. You're running in that Obama slot from 2008. But we've seen Hillary already on TPP. Dare I say it? Stake out this extraordinarily different position than the one that she herself held a couple of years ago.
Right.
And I think on national security, there may be some attempt also to thread the needle to stand by him on principle but not execution, that sort of thing.
I do want to talk about TPP and the pivot to Asia, but without leaving the region, we have to talk about Syria here again. We were all there together, right? The president says he had his kind of four-pronged strategy, but one of them against ISIS, but certainly one of them was training the moderate Syrian opposition. That didn't work out.
Okay, that's been a dud. Yeah.
That was a total dud. The Pentagon finally admitted it. But what we never sort of reckoned was that Putin would move Soviet planes in, or Russian, what am I saying?
Soviet,
Russian,
right?
Yeah, Soviet. Whoa. Russian planes, Russian advisors on the ground, and now Russian cruise missiles coming from the Caspian Sea, all on Assad's side. So suddenly we've got almost a three-way war going on here.
Right. The White House keeps insisting this isn't a proxy war, but when you see the insurgents armed with what appears to be CIA, provided weaponry, and you see Putin moving his guys in, it's like, okay, well, then what's a proxy war? Someone give us the definition in 2015 of what this is. I think Putin made his the side he was on pretty clear for quite a while in terms of supporting Assad and disagreeing with the U.S. position of Assad has to go and all this sort of stuff. But it was a degree of intensity. How much would he put his money where his mouth was? To what lengths would he go to support Assad? And certainly the most recent sort of military support indicates a lot. The problem is that President Obama and Putin just met at the UN. And agreed at least that they were going to kind of deconflict militarily, but ideally that they would try to get to some place where they could coordinate actions on some level. And now that you see the Russian campaign unfold, it just seems harder and harder to get your head around the idea of how they would coordinate militarily when their goals are so diametrically opposed.
They're almost 180 degrees.
I mean, they're both against ISIS, but to what end? If you think that if your position is that the best way to counter ISIS is to bolster Assad, you're going to operate in a really different way than if you think the best way to focus on ISIS is to get Assad out of the way so you can focus on ISIS.
Right.
And the U.S. position is a little more complicated to sort out logically because many of the guys who are, against Assad are affiliated with terror groups, some of which the U.S. opposes, except when they're opposing Assad. So the whole thing's really muddy. But it is really hard to see how the U.S. and Russia have a meeting of the minds.
You use the word that I've heard a lot in the last couple of days, deconflict, which I find an interesting word.
Right.
But talking about deconfliction, I guess, throw another word in there, how can you have American and Russian planes all flying sorties over the same territory at the same time and not have something go wrong?
Well, that's what deconflicting. What deconflicting is when you can't say you're coordinating, but you're trying to stay out of each other's way because Russia does not want to hit.
That's the least we could hope for, right?
That's the most. Apparently, the most we can get, at least right now. I mean,
Right.
so there is. We saw in this kind of initial unfolding this of last week how deconflicting can work, which is like you get a phone call an hour before something happens and says, get out of the way. Here's the place
right.
you get out of the way. And it worked. Okay, to that extent. I mean, but in terms of the broader goal, they're different goals.
Yeah,
so.
what Josh called it yesterday was rules of the road, but I can see the need for them. I just don't see how they come to an agreement on that right now when they're not even talking. They've talked.
Yeah.
White House has talked about talks with the Russian military, but they haven't happened.
Right. The initial U.S. military to Russian military kind of contact last week was about how they're going to talk going forward, largely.
Yeah. Well, let's hope they do so. And yes, President Obama, bad news on another front yesterday when Hillary Clinton, who was the champion of TPP when she was Secretary of State, said from what she's seen of the deal itself, she can't support it. That complicates things, too. We'll hear about that at the briefing today, but we'll get it first from Margaret Talev here from Bloomberg News at Bloomberg.com. Your thoughts? You got the answers? We want to hear them. 866-55-PRESS.
Like politics? Then like The Bill Press Show on Facebook. This is The Bill Press Show.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Hey, Free Speech TV world, it's Mama and the Mooks here at the Stephanie Miller Show.
Hello. Good morning.
You know, Seinfeld was about nothing. I think the Stephanie Miller Show is about everything.
A little bit everything.
Yeah, a little
It's
bit.
kind of everything like thrown into a blender and we hit frappe.
Right.
With wine poured in.
Right. Senators, fart jokes, politics, pop culture, entertainment.
Drinking.
Drinking. Random stray thoughts. It's what all the hip kids are talking about.
Yep.
We have the smartest, funniest people in the country on this show, do we not?
We absolutely do.
Right?
And our sexy liberal army of callers call in every day to tell us all about it.
There you go. And some right-wingers that Travis particularly enjoys talking to.
They're my favorites.
Okay. You can watch us every weekday from 9 to noon Eastern or 6 to 9 Pacific, which is really early. But we still, we try to, we're still pulling in people like Rob Reiner, Lily Tomlin, Frangela, you name it. You can only get it here at the Stephanie Miller Show. Mama, Mooks, fancy celebrities.
And everything.
And fart jokes.
Free Speech TV.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 13 minutes before the top of the hour, Thursday, October 8th. Margaret Talev from Bloomberg News, Chief White House Correspondent for Bloomberg. Margaret, I guess the biggest question all of us have for you is, how do you put up with Justin Sink?
He's like one of the best coworkers you could ever hope to
Oh,
have.
there you go. Save the tape.
It's true. And I don't want anything for this except for 3 or 4 night shifts.
God, what are you running for president now, too?
We enjoy having Justin in, and when we can't have you, Justin's here, and he lives in the neighborhood too, which is always good. So
That's easier than Rockville, I'll tell you.
you got it.
Tell me about it.
And
Your listeners should know how much I bled to get here this morning.
That's right. If the only person who lives farther away than Margaret Talev is Peter Ogburn.
That's true.
And just a few exits up.
There's a few exits up. But, and Justin lives, as I say, lives in Nave, so we like having him in. On the TPP, Hillary Clinton, she was the champion when she was Secretary of State, which I guess she had to be. Yesterday, a different story.
Right. So there's this Trans-Pacific Partnership, right? And it's the biggest regional trade deal ever in the history of humanity. And
11 Asian nations plus the U.S. No China.
And that's all part of it, even though the president says we're not about containing China, but whatever. So, this used to be the kind of thing where the president could at least count on, well, let's see, how do we even unpack this? Republican support, but Democratic support. Now it's eroded on both sides, both because Democrats are concerned about unions' concerns, and hey, it's an election year. I don't know if anyone told you that. And then the Republicans, there are some concerns about changes to the legislation, but also like it's an election year and it's open season on and
it's Obama's deal.
If it was a Republicans trade deal, the calculus of the objections might be a little bit different, and so he's sort of dealing with it from both sides, but of course, here comes Hillary Clinton. She was the Secretary of State as this was moving forward, and at the time supported it, and now objects to it. You could sort of see it coming, but it's official as of yesterday. Objects to it with just enough wiggle room to unobject to it later if she needs to unobject to it. And the objections seem to be about worker protections, national security, and the environment.
And the currency manipulation, she mentioned that as
But many of these areas
protection.
Actually got better from the left's perspective during the course
of the
negotiation. So it's hard to see. Her barometer has changed. It's what it sounds like has happened.
I think that's the best way of summing
the best
it
way
up.
to put it. So this gets interesting on a couple of levels. Number one, if she's the nominee, and if it comes back in a general election, depending on who the Republican nominee is, you may have a Republican who supports the TPP and a Democrat who apparently doesn't but used to. But in terms of Democratic primary politics, you now have Joe Biden, who's not a candidate, but if he were to decide to get into the race, as the only kind of
only Democrat for it,
Democrat, right, who's for it. And now, of course, Hillary was for it before she was against it, but it sounds like Biden will just be for it and stay for it. I talked to his staff yesterday. They said he's still firmly on board with this, and he's still
is that right?
And he is going to be helping the president press the case for its passage on the Hill. So it's hard to imagine, both in terms of his personality and in terms of where the politics of this is heading. It's hard to imagine him making a U-turn on this at this point.
In the meantime, Bernie Sanders and Martin O'Malley yesterday both said, welcome aboard, Hillary. Where have you been? Why did it take you so long or something? But they couldn't help that. But.
I think Martin O'Malley said something like, oh, that's a surprise. He could really contain himself, right? Sanders didn't have to say that. He gets to do that on Tuesday. I mean, I guess everybody gets to do that on Tuesday.
They'll all do that on Tuesday, right? The president tomorrow will be going out to, he's going to the West Coast. He had a trip planned there anyway. Now he has added a stop to Roseburg, Oregon, to meet with the families of the victims from last week. Why is it important for the president of the United States to do this?
Well, Bill, on a couple of fronts. Number one, it has become the sort of macabre part of President Obama's legacy, more than other presidents that I can remember. Maybe that's not so. Maybe it's just closer. But
not the first, but I think on more occasions.
Yeah. Everything from since the Arizona shooting
and
Gabby Giffords, all the way to Sandy Hook. It's just, this has become part of President Obama's ongoing duties, is to go comfort victims of gun violence and use the occasion to try to make a speech about where he thinks the nation should be heading and what he wishes that Congress would do in terms of gun control. There is also the just sort of base politics, the optics of the situation, which is that President Obama already was scheduled to make a West Coast trip. He's going to be raising money. We expect there to be a nice golf weekend too. It's a 3-day weekend. It's a bit to go raise money and play golf and fly right over the place where these people are mourning. And so I think he's attempting to strike that balance between paying respects without turning it into a circus and fitting it into the schedule that was already fairly locked down. And because he has an event tonight as well in Washington. I think he was just logistically unable to leave a day early. And so part of the sort of short nature of the visit, you can argue, sure, that part of it's not to disrupt people when they're grieving, but honestly, part of it is just that's the time he had, and they fit it in.
Right.
So.
It would be possible to go, you make an excellent point, to go to Seattle and so close to Roseburg and not make a stop there. And there's no public service. He's going to be meeting privately with the families. Margaret, so good to see you today. Thank you for coming by all the way from Rockville.
Don't go back to Rockville.
Extra points for that. Okay.
Thank you.
We'll see you again soon. Thank you. And I'll be back and wrap things up with today's parting shot.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment, and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is The Bill Press Show.
Well, as a former member of the Obama administration, one of Hillary Clinton's big challenges this year was to prove that she's her own man or own woman, I guess we ought to say. She certainly is starting to do that. Remember, she came out against the Keystone Pipeline. Then she announced a new set of gun safety proposals, going even further than President Obama was willing to go. And yesterday she came out against President Obama's pet project, the TPP. Yes, it's good to have. Might have taken her a long while to get there, but it's good to have her on board. Kudos to Hillary Clinton for taking those strong stands, and kudos to Bernie Sanders for pushing her to go so far left. That's it for today, folks. Igor Volsky and his friend tomorrow.
This
Have a
is
good
the
one.
Bill
We'll be looking
Press
for you
Show.
tomorrow.